January the 9th, 2026 is not defined by a single crisis. It is defined by simultaneity, domestic unrest, interstate war, trade realignments, and strategic recalibrations are unfolding at the same time. Taken together, they offer a clear snapshot of the direction in which the global order is moving. In Iran, anti-government protests entered their 12th consecutive day. Demonstrators set fire to police vehicles, government offices, state broadcasting buildings, and portraits of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Crowds openly chanted "Death to the dictator" and expressed support for exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. The response from the authorities was swift and severe. Internet and telephone services were shut down nationwide, effectively isolating the country. According to human rights monitors, at least 42 people have been killed and more than 2,200 arrested. Airlines began cancelling flights, signaling growing instability. What makes this moment critical is not the scale of the protests, but their nature. These are no longer demonstrations about prices, sanctions, or social policy. They directly target the symbols of power and ideological authority. When a revolutionary regime faces open challenges to its legitimacy, it enters its most dangerous phase. At the same time, the war in Ukraine escalated further. Overnight, Russia launched a massive strike that included the use of the Oreshnik ballistic missile. Moscow described the attack as retaliation for an alleged Ukrainian strike on the residence of President Vladimir Putin, a claim denied by Kyiv. The strikes involved ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and hundreds of drones hitting energy infrastructure and civilian targets across Ukraine, including the western city of Lviv. Ukraine responded with strikes on energy facilities inside Russia's Belgorod region. As a result, more than 500,000 people were left without electricity, nearly 200,000 without water, and thousands of apartment buildings without heating. This is no longer a war focused primarily on territorial gains. It is a war of endurance. By targeting energy systems on both sides, the conflict is increasingly aimed at civilian resilience, signaling preparation for a prolonged confrontation rather than a negotiated resolution. In the United States, President Donald Trump announced that Washington will begin striking drug cartels on land after claiming that maritime drug trafficking routes have largely been blocked. He suggested that operations could extend into Mexico and Colombia. This represents a major doctrinal shift. Drug trafficking is being reframed not as a criminal justice issue, but as a security threat, justifying military-style action. If implemented, this approach raises serious questions about sovereignty, international law, and regional stability. In Europe, the European Union approved the signing of its largest ever trade agreement with the Mercosur bloc, despite opposition from several member states concerned about agricultural competition. Beyond economics, the deal reflects a strategic calculation. In a fragmented global economy marked by sanctions, supply chain risks, and geopolitical rivalry, trade agreements are increasingly used as instruments of resilience and strategic diversification. In Asia, India is reportedly considering lifting restrictions on Chinese firms imposed after deadly border clashes in 2020. This does not signal trust, but pragmatism. Infrastructure projects have stalled, costs have risen, and economic realities are beginning to outweigh political confrontation. Meanwhile, China and the African Union held talks in Addis Ababa, focusing on infrastructure infrastructure, energy, artificial intelligence, and maritime cooperation. China also launched a new cultural exchange program and held high-level meetings with Ethiopian leadership. This is long-term positioning. China is embedding itself economically, technologically, and politically across the African continent, signaling that it sees Africa as a central pillar of its global strategy. In East Asia, South Korea announced plans to dismantle a military intelligence body after findings linked it to support for a controversial martial law declaration in 2024. This marks a significant moment of democratic self-correction. At the same time, Japan's defense minister is preparing a major visit to the United States focused on drone technology and strategic coordination, highlighting the acceleration of military integration in the region. Taken together, the events of January 9th, 2026 point to a world in transition. Power is being renegotiated inside states, between states, and across entire regions. This is not chaos, it is reordering. For clear, fact-based geopolitical analysis, subscribe to this channel.